What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and we are just, from the time of recording, days away from the official release of Disney's Lorcana trading card game. In fact, today I just signed up for my first in-person event this weekend, and I'm finally going to get my hands on some actual physical Lorcana cards. Up until this point, I've just been playing online, so that'll be really cool to see. And there's a lot of hype surrounding this game, it seems like, especially after Gen Con, with seeing more cards and people actually starting to kind of get their hands on cards. But for everyone else who wasn't able to go to that, this week is huge. So we're just going to kind of talk about Lorcana as a whole, and for those who are getting into it, what exactly do we need to know about this heading into the release. So first things first, Lorcana will officially be released in your local game store, hopefully your local game store, on August 18th, which again is just a couple days away from the time of recording this, and you'll be able to hopefully get products from your local game store. But there are some sort of warnings I want to give you when approaching this, because getting Lorcana will not be the easiest time, especially early on. But before we get into that, it's important to talk about kind of how exactly we should be viewing this game in terms of just not just the game itself, but outside of it. So what's really interesting about Lorcana is that not only is it a new trading card game that, based on what I've seen from playing it right now, it has a very easy entry point in terms of how to play it, but this game will also be huge for collectors. In fact, I would almost compare this in a way to the Pokemon trading card game, where there is going to be a huge contingent of people who will just collect these cards because, you know, it's Disney and it has all like Disney characters on it. They'll just collect these cards and won't really play the game. And then obviously there are the people who will get the cards and play the game competitively, or play it casually, or do all of those things together. And all of that is fine, except this might create an issue for the game early on. Ever since the pandemic, and there's been a trading card boom in terms of buying, selling, investing, there's a lot of people who are going to want to get in on this game early, because again, there are cards that came out in other trading card games, Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, that came out 20-25 years ago that are worth a lot now. And I think now that those people who were kids then and are now adults are seeing a game like Lorcana, they want to see if they can strike gold with a game like this, because again, it's Disney. The cards are super collectible, especially with all the different kinds of rarities that are coming out, and they're also banking on this game having longevity, which I personally think it is, obviously, if the game designers do a good job. So like I said, this can create some problems early on. Like I said, the physical game comes out in local game stores on August 18th. Now, I am a big proponent in supporting your local game store. I think that's a great thing to do. I think if you're getting cards, you should be supporting your local game store. But in this period right now, the people who printed this game, Ravensburger, by all accounts, did not print enough supply to meet demand, so there is a staggered release in local game stores, which means local game stores aren't receiving enough supply for their demand, which means that local game stores are going to bump up the price of cards. Well, not even cards, but product in general, right? So product that is one price at MSRP, let's say a starter deck, are being sold for a much higher cost in these local game stores, because again, the product doesn't meet the demand because they're not getting enough product from the company. So hopefully in the future, as they continue to print more, this problem will settle down a bit. But again, people want to hop on this early, and people want to get the cards as soon as they can. So there are people buying up this product, and prices are staying high. Now, it is worth noting that in major retailers, let's say a Walmart or a Target, this game will be released on September 1st. And to people who aren't too familiar with how kind of Detroit TCG communities work, is that when this gets released in major retailers, it is going to be at or close to MSRP. And around that time, which is only a couple weeks from now, people are going to try their best to buy up enough product at MSRP to further flip for a profit and sell for more. Because again, supply won't be meeting the demand. If all the cards are bought up at your local Target, then you can't buy it at Target. You have to buy it from someone who is flipping it for a higher cost. Think of it almost like when the new Xbox and the PlayStation 5 came out, you couldn't find them anywhere, and people were selling them for insane prices. Scalpers were selling them for insane prices on eBay or whatever. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to have a long-term problem like that did. Like, eventually more cards will be printed, and you will get access to cards. It just might not be as soon as possible unless you want to spend a lot of money. For example, a lot of local game stores this weekend or next weekend are having sort of like starter deck release tournaments where you get a starter deck, they give you a starter deck, and based on your win-loss record, that's how many booster packs you get, and that's kind of it. And some of these game stores are charging $50, $60, I even seen $70 for this event. Luckily, the game store I go to doesn't do it for that high price. It's a little lower, which is why I was more inclined to do it. But it will give you a chance to get your hands on actual physical cards. But again, if you want to do that right now, and even when they release to the major retailers, you might have to spend a little more. For example, if we look at TCGplayer.com, we have the booster box selling for $335 at pre-sale, and the starter decks selling at almost $50 per deck at pre-sale. That is not what the MSRP is going to be. Some of the singles aren't too bad, but once more cards get released into the general public, these prices will also go down. But again, if you're trying to pre-order these right now, you're going to have to spend significantly higher than MSRP. So if you find yourself in this conundrum, don't worry, it's not the end of the world. There are still other ways you can play Lorcana. One of the ways I would recommend, if you don't want to overspend on these pre-sales or overspend at a local card store at all, then there are different ways you can play the game. The first way you can play is a software called Pixelborn. Now, Pixelborn is great because it's free, and you can have access to the entire card pool, and it is an auto simulator for the game of Lorcana. I have videos so far on this channel of me playing on Pixelborn, and I think it works great. Again, it's a great way to learn the game and get used to the game and try out different things. And like I said, it is free, but I do believe they have a Patreon. So if you want to learn how to play the game and not overspend for the physical cards right now, that is a great resource to use. Another great resource to use is Tabletop Simulator. This is more of a manual experience. Tabletop Simulator does cost money, but the thing is, you can play the game as if you were playing against someone at a table. You manually control where the cards go and what you're doing. There's no prompts telling you or asking you what you want to do. It's a more kind of genuine Lorcana gaming experience. Again, Tabletop Simulator does cost money, but if you want to play the game as if you are playing on an actual table in front of actual people, Tabletop Simulator is another great resource to use. So again, and this is what I've been doing, if you find yourself not being able to get Lorcana cards or product, whether it be out of stock or you're not in a place to spend way above MSRP to buy the product, then I would stick with those pieces of software, especially because there's really not a lot of major competitive things happening with Lorcana yet. It's still in its infancy, so there really is no rush to do it. There will hopefully be more product down the line in the future. And even if you do get your hands on physical product, if you don't have your fully optimized deck with, all your 4s and every single thing you want, that's okay. You can still have fun and play with what you have. I know more competitive people kind of don't like that. They want to have their best deck possible now. But there are still different ways you can play without having to break the bank or get too discouraged about not being able to get product. So that kind of segues into the next part here, which is getting into the actual gameplay itself. Again, like I said, a great resource to learn how to play this game. Well, first of all, I have a how to play basics video on this channel. I also have a mechanics gameplay video on this to kind of show how the game works. The advantage you have getting into this game right now is, like I said, it is still very much in its infancy. This game doesn't really have many complex factors to it right now. The cards are very straightforward. Game plans are very straightforward. All the different colors kind of have their own sort of styles that maybe work with one color better than another, and it's pretty simple to kind of figure out what those styles are, whether it's more of a control strategy or setting up a good draw engine or an aggro strategy, right? The colors are very straightforward. The entire game right now, I feel, is very, very simple. It's easy to learn for people of all ages, whether you be an adult or a child. It's a good game to sort of get into at the ground floor. Again, there's nothing wrong with using these simulators to kind of help you learn the game, but I would also not be discouraged if you're having trouble sort of figuring out what exactly you want to do with this. Again, this game is still very early on in its development, so it's a great opportunity to experiment, especially because there's not that much kind of IRL competitive Lorcana happening right now, because the game's not even officially out yet. This gives you a lot of great time to experiment. You can also look up different deck lists. I would recommend joining the Lorcana, whether it be subreddit or a Discord. Find yourself a community. I personally live in the South Jersey area, so I have a Facebook group called South Jersey Lorcana. Try to find a community of people to sort of workshop some things with and experiment with some stuff. Again, even if it's not with the physical cards or just on the simulator, that's fine. But it's good to kind of have these things down. Once more competitive events start happening, then you might even have a leg up on other people. And again, the biggest thing is hopefully down the line, as new sets continue, this game remains fresh, it remains exciting. Again, right now there are some aspects of it that are a little weird, like there's some cards that do a ton and just kind of flip the game on its head. That's not always a bad thing, especially if you expect it, but just know that a game of Lorcana can change on a dime. And again, be sure to watch some Lorcana content of people playing games, whether it be on my channel or other channels. I like to post my gameplay on this channel, win, lose, or draw. I just posted a video where I lost every single game, but that's okay because I'm still learning this game as well and trying to figure out what works for me. And a reason why I'm a big proponent of sort of experimenting and figuring things out is trying to figure out what play style works best for you. For the collectors out there, you know, again, you're kind of in this weird spot at the moment where cards are worth a lot, especially with the D23 releases and the Gen Con promos and all that stuff. They're worth a lot of money right now, and I don't know if and when they're ever going to go down. I'm not really into the Lorcana collecting scene right now. I'm more worried about the gameplay. But, you know, some things are worth the wait. And the last thing I'm going to say is, let's try our best to make sure that everyone has a good, fun experience with this game. I think there is something good about it. I do think that this game will have longevity, and it's definitely making a push to try to be one of like the big card games. When you think of the big card games, right now it's Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Pokemon. You know, there's a couple others in there kind of below that tier. I think Lorcana is going to try to make the push to be in that upper echelon of TCG. So I think they're going to do what they can to make sure that this game lasts. And hopefully that translates to improving on product distribution in future sets. Hopefully Ravensburger has learned about how much they should be printing when releasing a new set, so that this sort of staggered release thing doesn't happen again. Again, there's going to be a ton of cool stuff coming out, whether it be the booster boxes, the starter decks, the Lumineers Trove. There's going to be playmats, sleeves, deck boxes. Make sure you're looking out for that stuff, because again, one of my favorite parts of Lorcana is the really cool art on the cards, and a lot of that art is also featured on those accessories as well. So if you can, try your best to support your local game store, but if you find yourself in a situation where it's too expensive there and you need to save money and get it from somewhere else, you know, that's fine too. As long as people are getting their cards, as long as people are playing, again, whether it be paper play or online, as long as people are playing and helping develop this game, that's all that matters. So, like I said, the game comes out this week in local game stores, so be on the lookout, and let's have fun. See ya.